What is happening, everybody? I hope y'all are having a happy Friday. This Friday, I want to start off by saying that fresh powder is basically an addiction. Fresh, soft, white powder brings everybody joy. It makes us shout with glee because we all know it ain't free. There's always so much of it, only so many days you can have access to it, and you can never have enough. It may be the 9th of May right now, but let's be honest. Despite enjoying the beautiful early May weather today, you're probably looking forward to some soft turds on a fresh powder day this upcoming winter. Hopefully this video won't worsen that craving for you, as all the footage for this video has been recorded back in February during a winter storm. That statement brings us to today's video topic, Steamboat. Steamboat is known to have some of the finest snow in Colorado. In the 2024-2025 ski season, Steamboat got double the snowfall of most of the other ski resorts in Colorado. Steamboat is located in a unique place where it gets hit by storms that most of the front range ski resorts don't even get. Steamboat can be a very rewarding ski resort to ski at on a powder day. But, just like any other ski resort, it can be less enjoyable if you do it wrong. So I'm going to give you my top 5 things you should never do when skiing at Steamboat. Starting with number 5. Never arrive at the ski resort late on a peak day. Steamboat can get absolutely swamped on weekends, especially during holidays like President's Day weekend. Yes, even on blackout days, the crowds are still there. Arriving at Steamboat late on a peak day is a bigger mistake than showing up late to a job interview drunk. Not only will you be stuck in a painfully long gondola line, but you will either have no parking available or you will have to pay up to park in one of the garages. When I day tripped Steamboat last February on President's Day Saturday from the Denver metropolitan area, I arrived at the Upper Knoll lot at 7:30 a.m., basically an hour before the first chair, and it was already full. Once you find parking and get up the gondola, the lines are not that bad, as everyone disperses out throughout the resort. But save yourself the hassle of the parking lot and in the gondola line, and get there before 8 a.m. Trust me. If you don't take anything else from this video, you will thank me later when you squeeze a couple more runs out of your ski day from this advice. Moving on to number 4. Never ski the lower mountain glades. If you are familiar with the Beaver Creek video a couple weeks ago, I gave my 2 cents on why you should never ski glades that aren't marked on the map. A similar logic applies to Steamboat. Steamboat is known for the best tree skiing in North America, but that is pretty much exclusive to the upper mountain. On the lower mountain, you can just forget about the trees. If skiing flat groomers and catwalks is too boring for you, there are a couple of gondolas you can ride down to skip that mediocrity. If you don't want to listen to a 24-year-old recommend you take a gondola down instead of skiing, I just want to let you know that Steamboat themselves even recommends you do that. Moving on to number 3, something you also shouldn't do on the lower mountain is never ski ungroomed runs that are on the lower mountain on a gravel day. Now after hearing that, your next question probably is eternal. What the fuck is a gravel day? A gravel day is the day after the snow gets slushy from it either being too sunny, too warm, or both, and it doesn't get warm enough for it to soften back up. The lower mountain on Steamboat is at a fairly low elevation and can get extremely firm when it's been a minute since the last storm. I find it mind-blowing that people don't mind skiing in those conditions, but I myself am a skier, not an ice skater, so it's a hard pass for me. Not only avoid it on gravel days, but any day where the snow falls less than 6 inches after a gravel day, I wouldn't recommend it either. Really, the recommendation would be to not go up at all on those kinds of days, but most of you probably aren't insane like I am to have the energy for 8 hours of driving plus 6 hours of skiing for a day trip from Denver. With that being said, You're probably most likely planning your steamboat trip weeks or even months in advance and have no idea what the weather is going to be like during your visit. You aren't that likely to run into this, but Mother Nature is not always on your side. And the number 2 thing that you should never do at Steamboat is never go to Morningside on a powder day. This piece of advice should be blatantly obvious for anybody who has been to Steamboat at least once in their life, but for some reason it still needs to be explained. Morningside for some reason has the longest lines at Steamboat, and I can never get my head around why. I even can't get my head around the fact there are so many people there actually lapping Morningside. They're not even skiing Mount Werner. They just keep lapping the Morningside Bowl, which is quite a stretch referring to it as that. I never knew that was a thing people did. If you are one of those people who do that, I have one question for you. Are you a moron? Morningside basically has every problem an area of a ski resort could possibly have. Yet, for some reason, so many people still lap it. Ignorance is bliss, if I could quote SRG from his Hater's Guide to Steamboat video. A good nickname for Morningside would be Morning Flat. Not only do the runs at Morning Flat fall flat quality-wise, but you also have an annoying traverse at the end. After you deal with all of that, you then have to wait in a miserably long line to get on a slow fixed grip triple. Not sure why Steamboat hasn't gotten around to upgrading that old dinosaur, but until then remember this. Doppelmayr, Droppelmayr. It gets even worse when it is a powder day as everybody and their dog is there. Really, the only reason to ski Morning Flat is to get to the Mount Werner terrain. But ever since the Mahogany Ridge expansion, there's even less of a need to do that. And the number 1 thing that you should never do at Steamboat is never ski through the trees below the Mount Werner runs. Now, unfortunately for this piece of advice, you have to break tip number 2, which was to never go to Morning Flat on a powder day. But if you play your cards right and go when there aren't very long lines for Morning Flat, it is definitely worth the lap on Morning Flat to ski the extremes on Mount Werner. Before the Mahogany expansion, these were the only extremes Steamboat had to offer, which is why a lot of expert skiers never cared to ski here. They were not only the only extremes on the mountain, half of them required hiking, and you have to deal with Morning Flat, which we already discussed. The worst part about Mount Werner is if you do not know where the fuck you are going, like I did during my visit to Steamboat, it can be incredibly frustrating. I am mainly referring to the trees below the First Chance run. If you have never skied Steamboat before, or you have never skied the Mount Werner runs, you don't want to miss this advice. After you ski down any of the extremes on Mount Werner, there is a run out called First Chance at the end. You want to take this run out. Do not, I repeat, do not ski past the run out and try the trees below it. Just don't do it. I know it can be very tempting, but don't. You're welcome. I probably saved you from a painful 30-minute traverse. Now that is all I have to say for this video. I hope this video was helpful for you, or I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your feedback down below, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.